The final thing I want to do is, as I said in the beginning of the show, I get a lot of comments in the comment section and questions, and they want to do some sort of debate, or they want to have me answer these questions. And I will say, so there are some clips where I can get, I mean, tons. I've had some clips where there's been over 1,000 comments. And it is difficult, A, to answer all of them for a few reasons. One, because sometimes it's a lot of them. Two, because they're incoherent and I have no idea what they're talking about. Even if I try to do research on it, I have no idea what they're talking about. Three, it's the same questions over and over and over again. And then when you answer them the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, it starts to get a little annoying. And after a while, it's just like, I know it's a different person, but I just don't feel like answering this question over and over again. So tonight, I am going to pick a few questions that I've gotten on the comment section. And these are questions that are typical of what I get. Some of them are comments, some of them are questions, but I am going to read some of these. And if anybody out there that is watching this that asks these questions, there's one thing that I want you to 100% listen to. Just listen to this comment. And from this point, please, well, I'm sure I'm going to hear it again, but do me a favor. I do not delete any comments at all. I don't care about your comments. You don't offend me. You don't intimidate me. You don't scare me with your comments. Put any comment you want. I don't know why they disappear, but I promise you, I have never, ever, ever deleted any of your comments. Trust me, they are not smart enough for me to delete. Even if they were smart, that would be relieving because then I can answer some smart fucking questions. But now I'm about to answer some stupid questions. And look who's just joined me. Lana Quest from the Quest Show. Now I'm nervous. I'm nervous because usually she's with me, but now she's watching me without her. So I don't know how I'm going to continue this. But hey, Lana, thank you for joining. But okay, so let's answer some of these questions. Let's read some of these. This comes from Dank Amensky 2315. All I can say is what a bunch of effing morons. By the way, this is the tone of almost every question. WTF, America does gas and groceries not cost enough border? And by the way, these sometimes are difficult to read because there's almost no punctuation. Grammar is a little bit off. So sometimes there's a lot of run-on sentence, so it's a little bit difficult to read. Not cost enough borders, unprotected inflation out of control, crime running rampant, not to mention what they are doing in our schools. We are on the verge of World War III, brought to us by the same people saying Trump is the evil one. Wake the F up. People, these dematards are completely effing shameful. Any more, and criminals to boot. WTF, save America, vote for Trump. Let's go, Brandon. FJB, which I think means fuck Joe Biden. And hashtag say no to the hoe, which it is my understanding that means Kamala Harris is a hoe because at some point in her life she dared have sex with a man. So that makes her a hoe. And obviously that's the only reason why she's in the position that she's in. And completely forget about the fact that Donald Trump's in the position that he's in because of his daddy. So anyway, let's address a few of those things, even though it's kind of difficult. Gas and groceries, that's a reference to inflation. Now, I've talked about inflation numerous times on this show. And if you don't understand inflation, if you don't understand how the economy works, it's difficult to understand this. So let's just kind of break this down and make this as simple as we can. Gas and groceries are higher now than they were under Donald Trump in his last year. And the reason why is because COVID hit, gas prices went down to almost nothing because nobody was driving. It is something called supply and demand. If you were in, I don't know, maybe 6th or 7th grade, you started to learn about supply and demand. I'm not sure how far Dank Amansky went in school, but the supply and demand basically says if there's a lot of demand for something, then the supply is going to be less. If there is less demand for something, the supply is going to be a lot more. So when there's a lot more supply and there's lower demand, what they do is they lower the prices a whole bunch to try to get people to buy this high supply of stuff. And there was a high supply of gas because nobody was driving. So that brought the gas prices down. Now, you're also going to hear people say gas was $1.50. It's never $1.50. The lowest it dropped to was like $1.97, and that was for like a month. It was a little bit over $2 for a little while. And again, that had a lot to do with supply and demand. You talk about inflation. People are convinced that inflation is still high. Inflation is not high. At one point, inflation in this country was at 9%, which is relatively high. Donald Trump will have you think it was the highest of all time. It wasn't, not even close. Inflation was up at 23% one time. But right now, it went from 9% down to now under 3% in a very short period of time. And it went down without losing jobs. And in fact, not only did we not lose jobs, we added jobs for 2 straight fucking years, and the unemployment rate was under 4% for 2 straight years running. That is unprecedented, what Joe Biden and how this administration handled COVID. You also got to give some credit to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve was pretty staunch on their stance on not raising rates. So they kept the same program going on. But I don't even think the Federal Reserve really took in and said, I don't believe that not only are we not losing jobs, we got the inflation going down. And guess what else is happening? Prices were going up for sure. But you know what else was going up? Wages were going up. And you know what that means? So the benchmark for the Federal Reserve is 2% inflation. But because the Democrats and many states voted for $15 an hour, guess what happened across the country? Wages started to go up. So when wages started to go up, it outpaced inflation. So when that happens, the new benchmark isn't necessarily 2%. We could have a benchmark maybe around 3%, and it may continue that way if the wages do continue to go up. So I hope that answered your question on the inflation Dankomansky. World War III, they brought up. Again, that's ridiculous to say that we are on the verge of World War III. That's not happening. All right. So I think I answered enough from them. Dr. Emil Schaffenhausen, 4683, says, okay, let's start with the border. This is another big one. Is the border a mess because of the Biden administration? And if it is that a good reason to support the VP who was supposed to be helping that crisis? So there's a couple of different questions there that we can address. First of all, the border's been a mess for decades, right? And the border's been a mess not because of a particular president. The border's been a mess because we have never really had an organized way of controlling the mass amount of people trying to get into the United States through the border. So the one thing that they would say is the mess is that there's been more people trying to enter the United States since Biden has taken over than when Trump. And that is true. But I think a large part of the reason for that is when Biden takes over, there are a lot of people in, let's say, Mexico who are trying to cross the border, and they hear over and over and over again that the new president that's in loves open borders and wants everybody to come in. So when that is being told to them over and over and over again, they hear this. So more people certainly are going to migrate because they think that they can get in based on who the president is. Joe Biden does not have a policy where he says, all these people are allowed in. You guys be quiet. They can come in whenever they want to. That is not how this works. That is not how it's ever worked. And Joe Biden just has a more humane way of wanting people to be able to come into this country, because that's truly what the United States is all about. It is people migrating from other countries, different cultures, different races, different religions, coming into this country and being able to say, I'm an American, and live that American dream. That's what the fuck this country is all about. Now, the one last thing I want to say about the border is, me personally, I don't give a fuck about the border. How's that grab you? I don't care about the border. The border does not affect my life in one way whatsoever. And if you're going to sit here and try to convince me that illegal people come in here to this country illegally or undocumented, that they're getting all this free stuff, then you're going to have to try harder to convince me, because that's just not true. They don't come in here and get a bunch of free stuff. But you know what they do? They do come in here and they pay fucking taxes. So they actually pay more taxes than the fucking guy you want to vote for, Donald Trump. They contribute more to this society than a lot of people in this country who live here who don't work. So I am not going to be convinced that this is an issue that I've got to sit here and weigh as to whether or not I need to vote for one guy or the other because of what the hell's happening at the border. The border does not affect me in any way whatsoever. Undocumented immigrants, documented immigrants are not coming in here and killing, raping, and murdering people. In fact, undocumented immigrants, the rate of crime from them is significantly less than the people who work here. So Lana and I have talked about this before on this show. Gaslighting is a word we hear a lot. And I hear people say, don't gaslight me. You're not gaslighting me. You guys are gaslighting each other. You're not gaslighting me, because this shit don't work on me. So anyway, next question. It's really Jack Black has asked. I don't know if this is, I'm pretty sure this is not the actor, because I want to say Jack Black is a Democrat and he's already endorsed Joe Biden. But it's really Jack Black asked, oh, this is one of my favorite. Brian, what is a woman? What is a woman? Okay, so a woman is somebody that I'm sure that you have a very, very difficult time getting attention from. That's number one. But okay, so here's the thing. This is not a rabbit hole that I want to go down. This is ridiculousness. But in the context of what he's asking, a woman is, you have a biological woman, and then you have somebody that identifies as a woman. We talk about this. I go back to the same thing as the border. This has no effect on me, on my life whatsoever at all. I don't give a shit if you are a man and you want to identify as a woman. There's a, oh, you're telling me a man can have a baby? Oh, yeah. So there are women who transition into men, but they still have reproductive parts in their body where they can have children. So if you identify as a man and you have a child and you ask me, so a man can have a baby, the answer from that standpoint would be yes. But you know what? This is not something that I give a fuck about. There are 0.6% of the population is transgender. If you want to personally ask me, do I understand it? I don't. But it doesn't matter if I understand it, because transgender people exist, right? And we're not getting rid of them. They're not going anywhere. And I don't feel like I need to rail against other human beings because I don't understand it. That is stupid. That is short-minded. And it just... how does it satisfy you? What the hell do you care? The other thing is, you have this idea that these transgender people are coming in and they're coming after your children. What is it with all these boogeymen that you guys want to continue to create, that they're coming in to attack and rape and molest your children? This is just not happening. And again, that's the other thing that is so frustrating, is there's no proof to any of this stuff. None at all. And you guys, I can ask for proof and you go, oh, you know what's happening. I go, no, I don't know what's happening because I don't fucking see it. So I'm not going to sit here and put all my energy into transgender people, and I'm not putting all my energy into immigrants, because transgender people are human beings. let's say I have a best friend or I have a family member who has trans kids. What, all of a sudden am I going to hate them? I mean, I think about the parents of these kids too. I think about the uh, suicide rates in the transgender community. And I think about a parent coming home and seeing their child hanging from the fucking ceiling because you assholes have a problem with this. So, what is a woman? A woman is whatever the fuck they want it to be. So that's what a woman is. I'm sorry, I'm missing some comments here because I had my Word document up here. Lowest board. That's the other thing. We have the lowest border crossings ever. And Greg Abbott can't even fill up buses. That is correct. I forgot to mention that too, by the way. When we're talking about immigration, just this last year, there's been the least amount of border crossings under Joe Biden. So July was the 5th consecutive monthly drop in apprehensions, along with the U.S.-Mexico border, and the lowest level in illegal immigration there since the fall of 2020 during the Trump administration. Absolutely. Again, this is just, it's so stupid, and we keep getting sucked down this ridiculousness as if it's true. We all know it's not. MAGA tactics, fear mongers. That's exactly right, baby juggernaut. And of course, an amen from Lana. I love that Lana just gave me an amen. That makes me feel good. Okay, let's get down to a couple more here. How much did Act Blue pay you to? Really, how much? Lana, how much does Act Blue pay you? I personally get paid by George Soros. That comes from Clem24U. George Soros pays me $211,312.12 per month. I don't know if Lana's getting paid by George, Act Blue, or both. You probably shouldn't tell me because that could cause a rift between us if you're getting paid more than I am. Or I hope hopefully George is paying you the same amount. And again, I ask that question because that's one that I get all the time. Okay, last couple ones here. So why do we need to elect her to get relief from inflation? She has been in office for over 3 years. What has the border czar done to help border and Main Street America? That comes from Drew NC 6196. I addressed some of these questions, but the one thing I did want to address is that she was never the border czar. She was put in charge to look into the beginnings of what some of the immigration that is happening from Central America. That's what she was really put in charge of. She wasn't put in charge of stopping border crossings. So, all right, last couple. Don't know if you two are a Saturday night skit or are you serious? This is, again, how much is Act Blue paying you? Guess you two are enjoying inflation and not buying groceries or gas. Okay, so we did that one. Okay, finally the last one. This guy sent me a very long one, and I'm going to get through these very quickly. We have 8 minutes before Lana starts her show, so I want to make sure that I wrap up before her show starts. But this gentleman, Scott 1637, and some of these are things I've already answered, so we could skip over those questions. But one of the first things he says, I can't, this is when the moment when somebody says, I can't believe you vote for Trump. I'm voting for the First Amendment and freedom of speech. That's the first thing he says. So when I hear that, I always say, do me a favor, because you're saying you're voting against democratic policies, which means the Democrats are implementing laws and rules that say that your First Amendment and freedom of speech is being taken away. Show me one example where there has been any kind of government law or rule in which your freedom of speech has been taken away. If you could show that to me, I'm happy to maybe agree with you. Maybe you can convince me, oh my God, these Democrats are not letting anybody to say anything. In fact, Lana and I have talked about this before. People are saying way too much shit right now. I mean, you're getting away with saying some stuff that is so far off the fucking wall. Try following Laura Loomer or some of these whack jobs on Twitter, or watch some of these podcasts like Nick Fuentes and guys like that. So don't tell me about the fucking freedom of speech. The second one, I'm voting for the Second Amendment and my right to defend my life and my family. Once again, We talked about this earlier. Show me one bill where the Democrats are trying to strip you of your gun rights. One. Now, what the Democrats are doing, and in fact, this is not just a Democrat thing. If you ask most Americans, I think it was up to like 75% of Americans all agree we should have some comprehensive gun laws and gun rules, not taking away your guns, but there are some things that we need to implement to at least try to slow down your child getting shot in the face by an AR-15 and is never going to come home again. I think that's pretty fucking reasonable. Voting for the next Supreme Court justices to protect the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Once again, first of all, Donald Trump is the one who said that he would do away with the Constitution. The second thing is right now, this Supreme Court is by far the most corrupt in the history of this country. Look at Clarence Thomas. Look at Alito. Look at their wives. You're going to sit here and tell me that this is a Supreme Court that you're proud of? See, again, that's why it's hard to take you guys seriously. When there's specific proof that we can point to that this is a corrupt Supreme Court, and you go, no, that's why I'm voting for Trump, because we need a better Supreme Court. That's crazy to me. I'm voting for the continued growth of my retirement and reducing inflation. I've already talked about reducing inflation. Inflation has been reduced significantly and probably done in a better way than any other president could have handled it. Second of all, if you love your 401k, then you probably want to vote for Joe Biden. Did you check the stock market today? Close to fucking record breaking. You remember a week ago when everybody was telling us that the stock market is crashing and Republicans and MAGA were celebrating the end of the great economic news? No, that's gone. The stock market blew up today. The inflation went down, and we're getting ready to have rates cut. So again, these are things that you just come up with that you don't even really understand the answer. Finally, the last couple ones. I'm voting for a return of our troops from foreign countries and the end to America's involvement in foreign conflicts. Well, first of all, you are delusional if you think Donald Trump scares Vladimir Putin or Bibi Netanyahu or Xi Jinping. He is their useful idiot. He wants them in because he knows, they know that they can sucker this guy to do whatever it is that he wants them to do. He's voting for the Electoral College. I don't know, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we already have the Electoral College. Maybe he's afraid that we're going to get rid of it. But if we do, I'm all in favor of that, because it makes absolutely no sense that the most amount of people in the country vote for one person. They don't fucking win. That doesn't make any sense. I'm a big sports fan. I would be pissed if I was watching my team. They scored more points than the other team, and they said, nah, you don't win. Explain that one to me. I'm voting for the police to be respected once again. Police are respected in this country. And in fact, you know, there's this idea that Black people hate the police. And I think Lana can speak to this better than I can. But Black people don't want the police gone. They want the police. They want a police presence. But what we don't like, and what anybody doesn't like, and what you shouldn't like, who asked me this question, are these rogue police who go out there and think that they are the king of the roads and they can do whatever they want. That is something that I personally, as an American, don't think is something that we should do. All right, last few ones. There's so many more, so I'm just going to go down to the bottom here. He's voting to fight against human trafficking. I don't know. I guess this is a QAnon thing that Democrats are child molesters. That is just so bizarre to me. He's fighting for freedom of religion. And I'm assuming if he's saying he's fighting for religion, probably for Christianity. Only if my guess is we're asking him if he's fighting for Buddhism, and he's fighting for Judaism, and he's fighting for every other religion you can name. I'm not sure if he was being honest that he would say that he was. But anyway, those are some of the questions I get. Maybe we can revisit those a little bit later.